So today's video, we're going to talk about how to come up with a viral book cover idea specifically for those 8.5 by 8.5 coloring books that are seemingly doing extremely well on Amazon. So before we get into the video, it's important that we talk about the reality behind these kind of coloring books. Going to be using my own stats and results from recent books as examples because these are the type of books that I'm actively publishing. So from there, we're going to go ahead, we're going to pick a niche style. So I'm going to explain and show examples of what this means as we go through the video, but this is super important to giving your book the best chance possible of going viral. From there, we're going to go into two phases, the first being the brainstorm phase. Then we're going to go into the unique selling point phase, and that is ultimately going to help us to create a killer viral book cover. So before we get into this video, it is important that we talk about the reality behind publishing these type of books. So the type of books that you see made by Coco Wire, Vivi Tinta, Jade Summer, all these bigger publishers. Now, the opportunity when it comes to these type of books has been severely misrepresented, especially by people doing niche videos on YouTube. That makes the opportunity look a lot easier than it actually is, because this is a specific pursuit, but when it works extremely well. So the first thing to note here is that to get into these niches and really make life-changing types of money, we are creating premium books. Now, when it comes to creating premium books, there is going to be a cost associated with this, whether that is outsourcing your book covers or your illustrations. It is probably going to cost you some money. So we're talking about competing against Coco Wire, Vivi Tinta, Jade Summer, Southern Lotus. None of these brands, none of these big publishers that are making this type of money, they are not operating on low budgets. They're not just using shitty AI. They're not just using images they've taken quickly from Canva. They have illustrators that they're using. So the book cover, which is the purpose of this video, is going to be the start of the customer journey, which is why we're going to put as much thought as possible into the book cover. It's one of the first areas that I start with before creating the rest of the book. I don't worry about the interiors. I don't worry about the title, subtitle, A+ content. Don't worry about any of that until the book cover idea has been finalized and created. Okay, so the reason that this is such a specific pursuit and that I put a lot of thought into this is because these books can make a lot of money for a long time if you get this right. I'm going to show you some stats in just a second. So another thing to note here, while we go through this video, it might seem like we're just copying these other publishers. That's not the case. We never copy. We take some inspiration, as you're going to see, but ultimately what we're going to create is going to be something 100% unique, which gives you the chance to stand out in these type of niches and take sales away from these other publishers. So since you're taking advice from this channel, I think it's only fair that we take a look at some of the results that I've personally had with publishing these type of books. So the last one that I created was published during Q4 in November. We've since then had 1,145 sales, and for transparency, we've had 437 of them coming from advertising campaigns. So with all of this in mind, let's go ahead and see the journey that I go through when it comes to coming up with these awesome viral potential book cover ideas. So the first step to coming up with a killer viral idea for your book cover is to pick the viral niche style that you're going to be entering into. So I don't think I'm using the term viral correctly here really, but what I'm talking about is these kind of books that we see on Amazon, all over YouTube, that have incredibly low BSRs, that are making a ton of money. I'm talking about the style of these books, because for me, when it comes to these type of super competitive coloring book niches, I don't focus on the keywords that much because it's such a broad audience that we're targeting, which is mostly women, mostly teens, adults, whatever you want to call it. It's a really broad market that we're getting into. So what I mean by the style, for example, as we can see on the screen now, the first style here is these kind of corner coloring books. And what you'll notice on Amazon is that once people pick a style, they do exactly the same thing that Coco Wire, Vivi Tinta are doing, and that is not how we make sales. So another example would be these kind of cozy friends. We're talking about these little friendly animals getting together in cozy situations. This is another style. Then we have these kind of cozy dates with the little animals on dates together. Then we have like these little shop styles that Hikaru Coats, or whatever this publisher is called. This is another style. So this is just 4 examples. There's obviously a lot more, but this is what I mean by the niche style. So we pick the one that we're interested in publishing in the most, because these all have incredibly low BSRs. They're all making a ton of money. We need to capitalize on this and take some of this money for ourselves, but we have to do this in a very specific way, and we start with the book cover. So let's say, for example, that we've decided to go with the little shop style. Now, just to go back to show you which one it is, that's on the left hand side. So we're not stealing people's niche ideas or anything like that. We can just acknowledge that this style has got a ton of buyer interest. Whether it's Cocoa Buyer or not, this style is proven to make people a ton of sales. Okay, so let's say that we're going with this little shop style. We think we can create something in this style. So the first thing that I do here, we're going into this brainstorm phase where we just note down everything we can about these type of books. And this is important because it's going to help you create a unique book cover. It's going to help you come up with the titles and subtitles and back-end keywords. It's going to help you create a lot when it comes to actually putting your listing together. So in this case, for example, we can see that these are simple to medium difficulty. They're cute. There's lots of variety. They're geared toward women, adults, and teens. They've got lots of different shops. They've got some that got food in them. The line thickness is pretty consistent. There's this angled perspective. It's kind of, some of the images are kind of quirky in this niche as well, etc, etc. Just write down as many as you can. So as we go through this video, I'm actively going to come up with an idea that makes sense for this niche style. Okay, so that moves us on to our unique selling point. So this is the USP phase here. So we need to come up with a unique selling point for your book that makes sense for the style that you want to create in. So we pick this kind of little shop corner style thing that we've gone for here. Now the little shop, this is where people go wrong. This little shop concept, it has been done. So if you want to create the little shop book yourself, you're going to fly very close to the sun when it comes to creating the title for your book, and also when it comes to creating the content for your book as well. I have seen people get their books taken down, their accounts terminated for copying other people's ideas too closely. And the thing is, when you do this, just to use this kind of niche here as an example, what we can see is that people come up with the same ideas over and over and over and over, and for the most part they are absolutely terrible. Now these books here, this one here for example, I can see this was copied, pretty much copied someone else's book in this niche here, and this is what people do. They do this over and over and over and over and over, creating the same things that have already been done, but much worse. Now I think also, just to note here, possibly the worst book cover ever made that I've ever seen. And I know that it sounds harsh, but this is what people need to see. And when you put this extra bit of effort into it, into your publishing, you need to think to yourself, is it worth going through this progression phase to go from an average book cover to an amazing book cover with an amazing idea, from making no sales to potentially making a ton of sales? Okay, you have to ask yourself if it's worth going through that learning process, because if you don't, you're going to end up creating things like this here that, to be honest, have absolutely no chance of making sales. So if that concept has been done, we then need to come up with our own concept that makes sense. So in these cases, I found that just coming up with an idea is much better than using ChatGPT to give you ideas. So you can use ChatGPT. I would just try and think of something on the spot. So for example, what would make sense in this style is something like a little bakery. But I think that's already been done. So the next idea that I came up with was this kind of little teddy bear shop, for example. So this would work quite well in my opinion, because it also kind of enters into those fuzzy friend type niches as well. So you could ultimately cross niche, but ultimately coming up with a very unique idea that's not been done before. So at this point, when you get to the point where you've decided on what the unique selling point is going to be for the style that you're going to go after, your brain needs to be absolutely flooded with book cover ideas. Okay, so one thing to note here is that it can be hard to understand what stage you're at, whether you should be running your advertising campaigns, whether your unique selling point is good enough, whether your book cover is good enough. A lot of this comes with time. However, if you're interested in speeding up the time in which it takes to actually nail this down and get a good idea as to whether your books and your ideas are good enough, this is why I offer the Raydog membership service. We have an amazing Discord community where you can come in and get feedback on everything that you're doing from me and other successful sellers. And if you're just at the start of your publishing journey, or you feel like you have good enough quality but you don't know the ins and outs of publishing specifically on Amazon, we have all the course content that you could ever need with advertising. We got case studies. I show off all of my books that I publish under my main pen name, the one that makes me my full-time income. We have live calls every single week, group calls every single week. There's a ton that goes into this, so you can get a load of feedback and understand what point you're at and what you need to do from there. So if you want to check this out at any point, this is chrisraydog.com. There's a ton that goes into it. It's going to be linked in the description below. So at this stage, we need to now enter into the book cover mock-up stage here. Now, this is how you're going to create this amazing and unique book cover. Okay, so you have your brainstorm ideas as to what the features and styles and audience is for your niche. You have your unique selling points. So in this case, we were looking at these kind of like a teddy bear shop or whatever that is. Now it's time to get your cover ideas down. So you can head over to ChatGPT for the initial idea and to give yourself ideas for how the composition of your book is going to look. So how the layout of your book is going to look, how the different colors are going to look, etc., etc. So what I did in this case, and now I don't recommend that people do this because it does feel slightly distasteful to put other people's books into ChatGPT and say, hey, give me some ideas based off of this book. But ultimately, we're still coming up with something mega unique. So in this case, I think it's okay to do this because we're not copying or anything like that. So what I did was to put the little corner book in here and said to ChatGPT, I'm creating a teddy bear shop coloring book in the style of the attached file. Give me a cover idea for it, with the title being the teddy bear shop. So it came back with some cover design ideas, which we can go through and we can use that if we want to. But then I said to create this as an image. It comes back with this here. Then I said make it much more colorful. It comes back with this here. And then I said, can you make the teddy bears look more unique and have less detail? And then it came back with this. And then I said, this is way too detailed. And then it came back with this here. So obviously this is shit. You would never publish this in a million years, but we're getting this idea of the different style that we could use for the book cover, the different colors that we could use for the book cover, etc., etc. So I tend to go through this like conversation, an ongoing conversation with ChatGPT until I get this kind of angle, this idea that I can then work with. So what happens from here is that this then comes over to Canva. So I will be sharing my Canva file with the designer who is going to work on the book cover. Okay, so inside the membership we have some pretty crazy ideas to completely reduce the cost of the book covers. So before I was looking at book covers that cost $200. We found ways now that we can get the production of the book covers down to around $30 to $40, and they look awesome. And we actually did a call about this. I can't remember what it was. All the calls inside the Raydog membership have been recorded, so you can go back and check out my best-selling books. You can check out how I made the book covers for my new books and how we get the production cost down and everything. I can't actually remember what it is, but it's in here somewhere. Everything is recorded. So at this stage, basically what's happening is that the designer, they now have this template that they can work with to go ahead and create the book cover, which means that we've come up with a completely unique book cover idea that no one else has done before. However, it still remains in this similar viral niche style. So what I would say is that this doesn't quite have that angled perspective that those little shops have. So I would be going through this creation phase for much longer, getting the ideas down until I have something that looks much better. To give you another example here, for an idea that I was going to run with but didn't quite go through, that I went with something else. But what I could see was that these girl moment type of books are selling really well on Amazon. Coco Wire was one of the first people to do this. It's just women in different cozy positions. So what I was thinking to myself is that I could kind of cross niche this with something else that made sense. So for example, I could see that these kind of fashion, vintage or different era type of coloring books were selling well. And I thought to myself, this could fit into this kind of niche style quite nicely. So what I was thinking about doing was having this type of book with women in different comfy positions, but women from like the 70s, 80s, 90s, different fashion styles, all the way through to the present year. So I didn't quite go through with that, but what that would have done when you do things this way that are unique is that you can also, it also opens up opportunities for other keywords to get ranked for. So for example, in that case, it would have been like vintage stuff, different eras, fashion, dresses, etc., etc. Okay, so there's a ton of benefits to coming up with something unique. You're going to stand out in the marketplace. You have the potential to rank for different keywords. And also, one thing that I found as well is that some of my books have not gone viral on TikTok, but people are actively willing to create unboxing and coloring videos of my books. And it's pretty incredible to see that because you're basically getting free exposure on the internet. But like I said, don't expect to create something of low quality that people have already done. So look at these books here. Most of these books, they don't have any kind of unique angle. They're all done with AI. I'm not against AI. I'm just against people using it badly. You can, of course, use AI for this pursuit. Just means you have to be good at it. But you don't want to do what everyone else has already done and expect to see sales from this pursuit. Most people, they will not see sales, especially from books like this, and that's the harsh reality. However, like I said, if you do get this right, the reward is definitely there. So like I said, if you are super serious about your publishing pursuits, highly recommend that you check out the service that we're offering. We have all the course content you could ever imagine. We have 9 different courses with all the advertising strategies, keyword strategies. We have private rooms where you can get feedback from me and other successful sellers. We have the weekly group coaching calls, and there's a ton more coming to the membership. It's the best place that you can be, I can promise you that. And we are actively helping people come from making no sales to starting to see their first sales, their first 1,000 sales, first $1,000 months, etc., etc. Go check it out. It's chrisraydog.com. Would love to see you there. That's the end of the video. I'll see you again very, very soon.